Hello and welcome to EPR with your favorite environmental enthusiasts, Nic and Laura. On today's episode, it's a mini-sode. Laura and I talk about government shutdown, end-of-year blitz, and sales.
And finally, yesterday in New York City, they had a record amount of rainfall that had not happened since 1882.
Dear God. That's wow. Wow. And on that high note, hit that music. I mean, we had like the busiest time. It's the busiest time of year for those that, as we work with the federal government, which, the fiscal year ends on September 30th, which is today, as we're recording, not as you're listening to it. So yeah, from there, most of our contracts come through this week and the week before. And really all of
So tell me, hold on.
Yeah.
For people listening who haven't got into this work yet, what does that mean?
So there's the way contracting works with the federal government. You can get a contract any time of year, but there's a couple of things that kind of push those to the end of the year. And one of them is just not knowing what they need for the year. So there's a plan that every agency, every group, or every organization goes through, and they have to get certain things approved for them to start building a project or doing whatever they want to do for an installation, for, building a road, whatever it is. They have to have a plan for that, and they have to have an idea on what it costs. So they spend a lot of their time trying to sort those things out. And then as they get to the end of the year, they have money that they have to spend or they lose it. And so then there's like a mad scramble because no matter how well you plan, there's always how do you solve the jigsaw puzzle, right? You have $1 billion. How do you spend $1 billion on 7,500 projects or whatever it is, right? It seems easy, except once you get down to the last bit and then you're trying to sort and move money around to try to find where things will fit based on price and cost. And if you're wrong on your estimates and all these other things kind of make it a challenge. So by the end of the year, you're kind of, all of that is coming together at once, all into one point, because they have to do it by today, by September 30th. Otherwise, they could lose the money that they don't allocate. And it is a strange process and phenomenon, but that is kind of the law of the land when you're working with the federal government.
Right. And so who does this affect? Just companies like yours that go after federal dollars?
Well, and the federal agencies as well. Many of my friends in the industry are also exhausted, I would say. But yes, a lot of the companies that work for federal government are really, really, basically, I worked for 2 straight weeks, probably 12, 14, 16-hour days, depending on the day. So I'm exhausted, to say the least. But it's just one of those things because everyone's working hard, everyone's working long hours. And it's like when you get a, proposal that you need to revise and it's like 7 p.m. You're like, well, they just sent this to me at 7 p.m. I'm going to review and revise it. It's going to take me half an hour, an hour. I'll send it back to them. And then you might get another version back. It's kind of this back and forth kind of thing. Because there's also negotiation and price and all these other things that go into it. But it's hard to do. It's not easy. And yeah, there's a lot of people that take time off after this too.
Yeah. That's you, in the management leadership level. How does that affect people who are out there doing the assessments and doing the work?
Well, I guess there's a couple of different ways. There's people who are, if you would win a lot of work, there's actually a double-edged sword. If you win a ton of work, more than you're expecting, then all of the people that you have working for you are going to be working more on more things and will be busier. And it sounds like a really good thing, but it's very hard to do without, having a plan for hiring new people and things like that. And sometimes you can supplement that by having other companies help you with these big projects. But then if you don't win as much money as you're expecting, then kind of the opposite happens where you're like, well, we have to let some people go or find new ways. If you're a big enough company, even like ours, the answer isn't usually, well, we got to fire everyone. The answer is usually, well, okay, let's see where can we reallocate resources in the company to still help in other areas. So most larger companies are more like that, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I've had to go through a downsizing in one of my previous companies, and that was really tough. It was a hard thing because you have survivor's guilt, if you're still there, which is what happened to me. I didn't even know what it was until then. I'm like, why am I so depressed and upset? And, all these things. I made it through. And so, yeah, there's lots of different things that are kind of complicated. I mean, for us this year, we had a really great end of year. That's fantastic. I'm really, really thankful for that. And it's a relief. And now I'm already starting to stress about how we do it again next year. So
I was just going to say, so when does the process start all over?
yeah, I mean, technically it starts tomorrow, but really there's going to be times like for the job that I have, I basically have to kind of re-engage with some clients in another month or so. And then it's just kind of keeping up those points of contact to find where new projects are coming, new money is going to be allocated, all that kind of stuff. So it's just getting information and following through on it. I don't know. It's a lot of fun for me. You know how I like to connect with people. It's kind of a strange shock to you, I'm sure, but it's not for everybody. It's not easy. It's not fun.
No way.
I know. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. But yeah, I don't know. It's a stressful time of year for a lot of anyone working in contracting, anyone working in the federal industry. I mean, it's a little different for like DOTs. They tend to do things a little differently. So it doesn't seem to be as much of an issue for their groups. But yeah, if you have friends that work with the federal government right now, if you just give them a hug. Oh, yeah, because it's a long time. Or, give them some space, let them rest. Either way, check in. But yeah, this mental health is important. You got to take care of it.
Yeah. So how does your company work with your staff on mental health?
That's a great question. So I think most companies have good resources for providing opportunities for you to reach out. I mean, and ours does as well. There's a hotline that you can call. There's a list of, I think, and you can find a list of providers for you if you need to talk to somebody or do anything like that. And I think most companies have something like that. Most bigger companies do. And like we're in a funny small, big category where we have thousands of people. We're still a small business. So, I mean, technically by the letter of the law because of how the law was written. So it's a really funny thing. So I would say smaller businesses have a harder time with that. I think that's one of the things we've talked to people on the show about that. Also, some small businesses don't even have HR departments, and we have one for each one of our business lines. So yeah, there's a lot of different resources out there for sure. But, I mean, every person's so different in how they want to handle their health and their well-being. So really it's just having options is the best thing. And that's what we do. It's great questions this early in the morning, Laura. I tell you.
I'm in interview mode. So I know also that young people, especially, they get hired at a consulting firm and they're either surprised or just not really enjoying the fact that they may have to also go out and get work.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think all consulting firms have that as a requirement, but I know yours does, I believe, right? So what does that mean also? Like that's not federal contracts, right? That's something else.
No, it's we call it being a seller doer. And Sam's making a face. I didn't say it was a good term. It's just what the term is. But it sounds much scarier than it is. And I would say most junior staff, for example, don't have a requirement to do that here, but they already kind of do it anyway. So it's one of those things where like if you're interacting with a client at all and you're being respectful and the client ends up liking you as a person, like when we brought Sam on, for example, I know our clients were like, we like her. She's good at what, she's good at understanding what we're doing, and she's really fast and she's really, really good, because fast and good are not always the same thing. So there's things like that that kind of help sell Dawson or whoever else it is to the client, because you're saying, hey, look at this we have a great resource for you here that's being run by someone who is very competent. And that's a selling point. That's one way to sell us. And then there's, more direct ways where you're talking with, and as you get up the ladder, like where I am, that's a requirement for me. I need to go to conferences and meet clients, make new connections, maintain existing ones, which is actually much more important than meeting new ones. And it's a lot more direct, right? That is literally like, hey, what are you guys working on this year? What can we help you with, kind of thing. Right. But, one of my other employees works with one of the Army Corps agencies, and she's been doing really great work in the field with wetland surveys and stuff like that. And so she's like, hey, do you guys have anything else going on next year? And they're like, oh, actually, yes, we have about $1 million worth of wetland work, right? And that was way more than we were expecting, but it's incredible. It's just like based on the work that we've already done and our willingness to ask for something else. That became a project for us. That's kind of how, at the end of the year, that was one of the ones that was allocated, for us to do. So it was really cool to do. And we had to, you have to compete for some of these. And so it's not always like directly like amazing, but sometimes you don't. And yeah, it's a really cool thing. So I don't know. Our whole company, I hope that answers it.
Yeah. Upselling in general, right? Like done this before, proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
Who else wants to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Sam, how do you feel about seller doer?
I didn't really know I was doing it, I guess. But it's cool. Although the name does need to change. Seller doer.
Yeah. I mean, it's a multitasker. I don't know. And then it sounds like you're a superhero. So I don't know. The multitasker.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. Sales king, queen? I don't know. Don't like that.
No.
But yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that I think most people don't even realize they're doing it when they're doing it. Sometimes it can be as simple as like you have a kickoff meeting, you're talking to somebody, and you just ask them questions. Like you're getting to know anybody else. And if they say things like, man, I'm having a hard time with XYZ, then you should say that because I was just talking to somebody about wanting to do more of that. We can help you. And so sometimes it seems like, there's people who are, business development leads who, you want to avoid that used car salesman thing. I think that's really scary and a little off-putting for most people. If you're like, hey guy, what's up? How are things? I'm great. Aren't you? That kind of thing. There are people that are like that, but most of the time that doesn't work. But most people are like, can you please leave me alone? I'm trying to do my job. But most people aren't like that. Most of the interactions you have, most of the selling is much simpler than that. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a neat thing.
But I feel like you said, it's not really part of their job, but I feel like you've mentioned before that some people aren't bringing in enough money.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that sounds like that is their job.
Yeah, I think for some people, it just depends. Like if you're in like a more senior role, just about every senior leader person has some kind of sales goal. Like I have one and my program managers have one as well. But a lot of it is, collaborative. And so even though there's a goal on one person, that one person is not on an island. It's like, you must find $1 million or whatever it is. It's more like we have to work together to get there. And it's a year-long process, truthfully. Like we've had, small and like, for cultural resources, we have, a bunch of small projects that are setting us up to get bigger ones in the future. And, we just got a bigger one a couple of weeks ago. So, those are the kind of building blocks to doing something, to getting more of what we want and need for the group. And so no one's on an island, but the people do have, once you get to a certain leadership position, that's part of your job. And, there's not like if you miss the goal, then you're immediately fired or anything like that. We don't work that way, but it's really more of is this a viable business line? Are we able to maximize this? If it's not working, why? And try to find solutions to the problem. And if those continue and there's issues elsewhere, then maybe it's something that's that has to change. But yeah, it's not even like, like Wall Street, it's stereotype kind of thing. At least not where we are. And I don't think most companies run that way either, truthfully. But some do.
Cool. Well, this is a mini episode today for this very reason, because lots of people are busy. You've been busy. So short break for today on interviews. Mm-hmm. So if you want to, anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Well, I mean, I will ask one for you, Laura, from one, for me to you. So for you, it's different, right? You have lots of different businesses going on. You have lots of different plans, ideas, work. What you have to also do some kind of selling for you. I don't think they're that different than what we do, but I don't know. How do you go about, okay, I have a plan, I've got an idea. How do you go from, beginning to end on it?
Yeah, I do have to do a lot of selling. I think the most challenging part for, owning your own business and working at this level is clearing space to make the sales. So, I find myself doing a lot of the work, the daily work myself. And then it's like, you don't get to the sales because you're busy working with the clients, but you have to get to making the sales. Yeah. That's always the goal is, delegating and hiring other people to do the main pieces of the work. And of course, for some of the stuff I do, it has to be me. There's no one else who can consult on my behalf. That's me. But yeah, the process itself, I mean, it's just a matter of, for each company is a little different. Some you can do email reach out and that's fine. Some, you have to be in the room and you have to talk to people. For others, people need to, and for all of them, people need to see you've done the work before.
Yes.
So like you said, on the cultural resources, you're doing smaller projects to get there. My media company, we just put out a musical documentary, rockumentary for Byron Cage. He's a drummer who tours the world. So like now we have documentaries underneath our belt. So like, let's go get more documentaries.
Yeah.
So I've got to reach out to people who would fit what we're doing and who'd be interested and have the budget to do what we want to do.
Right.
So I think for you, when you're talking about, you do the work and you ask a client or you meet someone at a conference, it's not maybe easier, but you're at least in the room with the target audience.
Yeah.
Right. Like for me, a big struggle is getting in the same space with the target audience or even figuring out who they are.
Yeah.
So, it's like narrowing it down because, because then you get into what kind of documentary and have you ever done one for this genre before? And have you done that? And it's like, what do you do for who? And then book publishing, what kind of books do you publish? And, it's like, even that like started as one vision and it's kind of grown into like, we do all kinds of books. So
but it's like a puzzle
process for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like a puzzle. It really is. It's like putting a puzzle together because you have to find all these things. And even if you know who the target audience is, do they have the money that you need? Do they like you? There's all these things that kind of come together. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, and it's the timing, right? You know what I mean? Like your example about the wetlands. Oh yeah, we have something coming up next year. Like maybe we have something coming up, but it's in our 5-year plan. That doesn't help Dawson right now. No. Someone tells me they want a documentary in 4 years. That doesn't help me now. So finding, a published books are probably the bigger thing. Yeah, I have an idea. It may take you 10 years to put your idea on paper. So I can't keep meeting people who just have ideas. I need to meet people who have written something,
Yeah. But I love it though, because it's a great point that you brought up. We write that down. If they say in 5 years, we're going to do this again, we write it down. And 5 years later, we plan on being here. And plan on asking them, 4 years later, hey, you still doing that thing you said you were going to do 5 years ago? Because we'll still help you.
Yeah.
And but obviously it goes in the back burner. It's so you have a 4-year window where you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to worry about that right now. And then, but if you're friends with a client or friends with somebody who's writing a book or whatever, you kind of keep up with them and there you go.
Have you written anything? Have you written anything? Have you written anything?
Yeah, exactly. Just every now and then.
Can I help you write something?
Yeah, right. Here's the book that you wrote. I'm publishing it. Yeah, that's funny. But very cool. So see, I'd say there's lots of different ways to do the same thing. And I think that's kind of the message here.
Yeah. And that's really where I'm at. Like the last couple of years have been, I left EPC in 2016 and I started 3 or 4 business lines since then. And then now they all have quality proof of concept. The foundation is built. Now it's time to go get the sales, right? So, so that's this is a good conversation. This is right where I am.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And so, and then you get one huge sale and you're like, oh gosh, how are we going to do this? And that's the best and worst feeling. And then you do it. And then you get another one and you get 2 and you're like, okay, cool. Now we're doing 2 huge things. I think we have a plan. Oh, we have 3 huge things now. We have 3 huge things. Yeah. And it's kind of like how are we going to do it? But that's tomorrow, Nick's problems. I don't have to worry about it today. So I won't for my own health.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's really cool. And what a fun conversation. And I guess I just did it.
It's going to be fun.
Awesome.
I do. I was told, I was in this mastermind group with Clarkson University recently, and I was the facilitator for our mastermind group. And I was actually told by the other people in the group that I was a good salesperson. I was like, wow, cool. I never thought anyone would say that about me.
Same here, by the way. Same here. I never, no, of course. Because it seems like the perception is used car salesman. That's what everyone thinks when you say salesman. And there's so many other ways of doing that aren't sleazy or creepy or weird or whatever. Most of the time, it's just like you genuinely want to help people. And if you genuinely want to help people, they want to work with you. That's usually what it is.
Yeah. And I think too, like a big key of it, because both of my business partners, have no experience with it. And it's kind of like that, like sales, I can't do sales. And I'm like, you're not selling. You talk about, you meet someone who has a problem and how you can solve it. That's it. Like, and even if I don't have to think about, so it's not focusing on what product I want to push, focus on what do they need done and can I do it,
Yeah.
And so a lot of times what I'm selling evolves because I'm like, well, that's 90% what I did already, but it's a little different. So just do it.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times there's resources out there to help you, It's strange to think about like, there's products that I helped win that I personally don't know anything about, but I know the client, I know the people, and I know that we have the ability to do the thing that we are bidding on. So there's all kinds of like ways to do it. And there's all kinds of, and I think one of the other keys here is sometimes you have to recognize that you're not the best person to sell to somebody. I had a mentor of mine tell me that once. He's like, and I think we may have even mentioned it a little bit, but like, he's a charming person. He was really great at sales, fantastic at really connecting with people. And he even said, he's like, I don't connect with everybody. Not everyone likes my personality. Even if I have, I'm outgoing and I'm easy to get along with, some people will be put off by how outgoing I am. So if they want someone more reserved, they want someone a little bit quieter, then that's who we have to find. We have to find the right person for them because it's not me and it shouldn't be. So, there's also a balance there. Sometimes personalities, that's really what it is. It's kind of like we talk about networking, right? It's, you're not trying to get everyone to like you. You're trying to find people that you also like because it's super easy to keep up with people you like. It just is. And that's kind of the same thing with sales. It's, find people you like, work with them, they work with you. Boom. There you go.
I know. And a lot of times too, it's just like seeing someone and going, oh, I can help you, and just having, and then no pressure, right? I'm just here to tell you, like, if you need this, I can help you with it.
Exactly.
And if I'm not the right person, I'll be the first person to say, I'm not the right person, but having partners or other people just through networking that, career coaching. Had somebody the other day ask me, like, I'm in the Netherlands, can you help me with this? And I was like, well, I can, but there are other people in the UK that would probably be a little better. So, try this. If it doesn't work, come back to me.
Exactly. Exactly. That's perfect. I mean, that's perfect. It's exactly right. Because you just don't say no. Say, I can't, but, it's such a better answer.
Right.
And you can, you kind of engender yourself to them anyway. Oh, they're still trying to help me, even though they won't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a nice thing.
Point, like people who can't afford the service, like what can you provide? Like for book publishing, there's a whole landing page on how to do it yourself. Like if you can't afford to get help to do it, you can do it yourself. And, there's a million places to find the instructions, but we also have it on our webpage, So for the numerous times, and we do once a year open up to like, just for the sake of accessibility and offering help to everyone, we once a year have an award. Can you hear? I'm in the city.
Yeah.
So we open up an award to give a free publishing contract to someone who has a book written, not an idea. But, so whenever someone does approach you and says, I can't afford this right now, you're also not really turning them away either completely.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how you can do that in the environmental space, like here to do your own EIS, but
no. But there's always options for trying to do a project in different ways. There's ways to save money. There's ways to cut back on certain things. But there's a limit on that. That's a little different for us. It's hard to. But
there's grants too, right? Like if you have a project that isn't like federally regulated, but just something you want to do, there's funding.
Yeah. There's always ways to find funding. Yes. And it's just even that could be a challenge, but that's a whole another space and kind of a little bit different than almost everything we do. But the grant writing is a huge thing. One of my employees used to do that straight up. That was like what her job was to literally write grants to get projects so that they could do it. They were like a think tank, I think.
Yeah.
And not even related to the environmental field, but I just knew she was a good writer. So I hired her.
Yeah. We should talk about that on another episode because that's what I did at EPP. I was I was the grant manager, but I also went and got grants. So I know both sides of that coin. Yeah. But I think for our mini episode, we've chatted enough. Maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I will end, like I say, so we have a looming shutdown, and I hope very much that the government doesn't get shut down. There are going to be people, some of my friends who will be furloughed. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of people who may not have paychecks while the government shut down. So think of them. If you know them, reach out. And yeah, I hope this doesn't happen. And if it does, I hope it's quick. So cheers, everybody. I know it's a more somber note to end on, but I just wanted to say, thinking of everybody. That's our show. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us today. Please be sure to check us out each and every Friday. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. See you, everybody.
Bye.